Thank you. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Let me just start with my spiel. Sorry, I was muted. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Biana Magbitang from Climate Tracker Asia, and I'll be guiding you through this media briefing on the 2024 Philippine Climate Change Assessment Report, the physical science basis. And we're really excited to share the latest insights and findings that will help you with your reporting on climate change. And we are actually also um, expecting that all of these insights in these reports will help shape the conversation on climate change in our country today. But before we dive into the details, I can see that we already have 14 people within our briefing today. Could everyone please drop a comment with your name and organizations you represent so we can see where you're from, and also the guests can our authors who are with us today can will know who we are with in this briefing. We now have 15 people, and it's always great to see who's in the room. So we get started. But before we start, I'd like to uh, hand it over to our partners and the people behind the report, uh, the Oscar M. Lopez Center team. So they are now with us. So um, and I'd like to they will basically provide an overview of what the Philippine Climate Change Assessment is, and what this report is all about, why it's significant for all of us. Over to you guys. Not sure if we will say there were welcoming remarks. Kayo po ba, Miss Kato, or will it be Ayn? Ayn is here with us.
Yes, I'll turn over to Ain.
Ayn, hello.
Hi, am I audible?
Yes. Good morning.
Morning, Vienna. Salamat. And thank you everyone for participating for today's briefing. No? So just a little about the Philippine Climate Change Assessment. No? We really appreciate your continued support to help us share this critical climate information to a wider audience today. So the PhilCCA, or that's the shortcut for Philippine Climate Change Assessment, reports. No? It's patterned after the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change's assessment reports, or what we usually hear on the IPCC reports. So the PhilCCA, on the other hand, synthesizes scientific information from both local, that means to say in the Philippines, and international literature to provide a comprehensive assessment of climate change specific to the Philippines. So that makes now that makes up a very valuable resource to make strategic decision making on climate related issues. So the PhilCCA Working Group 1, or WG1, as you might hear also patterned from IPCC, is the title is the physical science basis, or it's a first in the series of three reports actually that will be released in the coming months. So this report looks specifically at the physical mechanisms driving climate change, including trends in temperature, rainfall, tropical cyclones, and sea levels. So the next two reports, on the other hand, will delve more into what are the impacts, the vulnerabilities, and adaptation. That's the working group 2. And as for the working group 3 report, that's more on the mitigation options, or more on the greenhouse gases conversation. So that will now cover both the adaptation and mitigation actions for the country. But today, it's all about understanding the science behind the shifts that we're already experiencing related to climate. So back to you, Biana.
Thank you, Ayn. So, basically, what we will do today is we'll give you a brief highlights of all the things that we think our media friends will be interested in, and we will look into as Ayn said, we will be looking into the first report of this series, and I'll just give you a preview of the fact sheets that we are doing and that we are preparing for you guys. And here it is. So basically, I've also consulted some of the authors who are here in this meeting, right, in this briefing, and you'll actually have a chance to ask them questions later. But um, Basically, what we're seeing is, of course, climate is warming in the Philippines, and data shows that the annual mean temperature in the Philippines has been increasing since 1951. And we will have a chance later to ask the authors and our scientists what is the actual number that we've seen since 1951. But basically, what this means is night temperatures in particular have been on the rise. So kung nararamdaman nyo na umiinit na sa gabi, and that's because climate change, ang climate is warming, and this is an indication of how urbanization and other factors are impacting local climates. We've also seen in the data that rainfall patterns in the country is also shifting, which is likely the country is likely to experience shifts in rainfall patterns. Some models suggest that increased rainfall, while others predict drier conditions. And we again will have chance to ask our authors what this means and why this matters for a country like the Philippines. But um, basically, this is crucial for sectors like agriculture, which depend heavily on consistent rainfall. Another data set we can see is sea levels are rising, and in the Philippines, they're ranging from 5 to 7 millimeters per year, which is actually contributing to coastal flooding and erosion risk. Another data we've seen in the report is overall number of cyclones might decrease in the country, but they are now intensifying, and those that reach the Philippines is expected to increase under high emission scenarios. And the last data that will be flashing is while there are a lot of efforts like this, and thanks to the OMLC, that they're actually doing this, but data gaps remain a challenge, and despite significant progress in climate science, there are still critical data gaps, especially when it comes to localized climate impacts. And speaking of localized climate impacts, we want to highlight why this data matters. And of course, let's talk about this. We feel that the findings matters because there are a lot of impacts in our community. Shifting climate patterns affect agriculture, as I've said a while ago, fisheries, everyday life, making it harder for the most vulnerable communities to adapt. It's it's also affecting disaster preparedness. That's why we're actually doing this um, media briefing today before the Asia Pacific Ministerial Conference on Disaster Risk Preparedness next week, because we feel like this data can actually help your reporting next week. The insights on cyclones and rainfall can inform local governments and disaster risk reduction efforts, making sure that we're ready for the next storm, whether it's stronger winds or unexpected floods. We also see that urban resilience is actually also an important factor that will be affected, since for our cities, rising nighttime temperatures and threat of sea level rise highlight the need for better planning, heat resilient infrastructure to improve our flood defenses. As we've seen in the past few months, Manila has been really flooded kahit hindi ganun kalakas yung um, uh, kahit di ganun katagal yung na experience nating bagyo, mabilis na umaangat talaga yung floods because as we've said a while ago, the rainfall patterns is changing. And this can also help in policy and planning. The report provides a foundation for evidence based policies, whether it's crafting local climate adaptation plans or developing more resilient infrastructure projects. We also see that this can also affect and also help the future generations, since the climate scenarios outlined in the report will definitely shape the world that the next generations of Filipino inherits. And it's up to all of us to use this data to make decisions that protect our future. And because of that, I'd like to um, ayoko na pong ako ang puro lang magsalita. We now have all of our um, scientists here in the call. We have the main coordinators, Dr. Rosa. Father Jet is also here with us. So without further ado, I'd like to call them in for all of your questions. Kung pwede po pa-open natin ang mga camera and also all of our microphones. Good morning po. Maraming salamat for joining our media briefing for our friends in the media. As you can see in the comments, we have Lou from GMA, Shaina from Fight, Christine from Monga Bay, Edmar, who has been for reporting for Climate Tracker and also for Rappler. Good morning, everyone. I saw Father Jet a while ago, but no, nawala po siya sa ating backstage. Hannah is also here from Eco Business. Good morning po. So, siguro po to start our conversation, I would like to okay, Father Jet is here already. Good morning, Father Jet. Good morning po. I'd like to ask all our authors, aside from all of those five things that we highlight a while ago, what was the most glaring or important findings of the report for you? Maybe let's start with Father Jet.
Hello, Vienna.
Good morning po.
Good morning. Sorry, I just got in. I was having trouble. The audio was a bit choppy on another computer. So, uh, what was the question? Sorry, what the most
So,
glaring?
yes po. So we actually already included in our highlights five things that are we feel like our media friends would like to know from the report, which is the climate's
Okay.
warming, rainfall patterns are shifting, we have sea level rise rising, there are tropical cyclones intensifying, but we know that data gaps remain a challenge. But right now, I'm thinking for what do you think, aside from those five, would be the most glaring or important finding of the report for you?
Okay. Thank you. Maybe Dr. Rosa also will chime in and the other authors. But just to mention one, I would really like to mention sea level rise. We are an archipelago. Pinaliligiran tayo ng dagat. And of course, I think we know already that the sea level is rising the fastest in the world, in this part of the world also. So tayo yung pinaka mabilis yung arangkada yung taas ng dagat, and we really do not have um, enough information data to diagnose or even to predict how this will happen. We have some tidal gauge data in some areas, and that has been there for quite some time. Pero yung pagtaas ng dagat, hindi talaga. And that has implications on our water, on our flooding, even on storm surges. Yung ano ba yung storm surge? Daluyong? Nakalimutan ko na yung
Yes, daluyong po.
so, Um, so yun lang, isa. Babanggitin ko lang yun. Medyo we are in the dark when it comes to yung pagtaas ng dagat dito sa ating bansa.
Thank you po. How about kay Dr. Rosa po? What do you
Yeah,
think?
aside, thank you, Vienna, and good morning to all. Aside from the sea level rise, I think it's the rainfall. Kasi basically, rainfall is really very difficult to predict, to forecast, you know. And we have very short period yung observation, so we cannot analyze or the statistical significance, yun yung sinasabi parate. Yung confidence natin hindi masyadong mataas doon sa length ng data natin. But rainfall is very valuable for the Philippines, no? So, lagi tayong merong sobrang rainfall, so flooding, at meron naman na panahon na we lack rainfall, so it's drought or lack or water deficiency, no? So, I think yun yung gusto rin nating makita kung ano yung we have to increase the number of observing stations so that we'll have some confidence of what is happening, no? Kasi unlike temperature, which is continuous in space, rainfall is not, no? So, kaya putol-putol yan, no? It's discontinuous in space. So, we need a lot of observing stations to be able to have confidence in our data analysis. So, yun yun. Yung dalawa, sea level rise and rainfall.
Thank you po. We also have Miss Lourdes Tibig. Tita
Ah,
Lu, ano
yeah,
po for
Vienna.
you?
I'd like to second what Father Jet said regarding sea level rise. I am appalled at the absence of any observing station for sea level rise all over the country. What we have are very few, rather, researches, and some of them are like community based, mean like they just want, they're just looking at how much has the level of the water level has risen in their communities. We really need that because much of our communities are along the coast, and it directly affects their livelihoods and even their lives. And the other thing is the way our tropical cyclones are developing so fast. If you can look at, if we look at the most recent typhoons, we had been unpleasantly and disastrously surprised with how fast they've been developing. We need more. I don't know how people, my coworkers at Pagasa look at it, but those are two of the main concerns that I really want to look at. And the other thing is something that is a crossover to NPACs. It is how we could have more data in order to be able to do attribution studies. These observed impacts really attributable to human-induced climate change, and if not totally attributable to human-induced climate change, what role does human activities play in the severity of the observed impacts that we are seeing all over the country? Thank you.
Thank you po. Before I go to our other authors, I'd like to also address a question in our comments, which is actually connected to my next question, which is the first time we did this report was in 2016, and we already know and have an idea of some of the mentioned trends that is happening. And time na Christine Sabilo of Manga Bay is also asking what is something new that is featured in the report. But is there something new that is observed in the last couple of years? Maybe I'd like some of our contributing authors to maybe contribute to the discussion as well. We have Miss Francia Avila, Faye Cruz, Julie Dado, John Manolo in the briefing today. Hi, John. Go ahead.
Good morning. Actually, maganda po yung na-raise na question. Isa po siguro sa additional na information na meron dito sa report ay previously meron pong nire-release yung pag-asa ng trend sa temperature. Pero question pa rin po kung ano yung role ng urbanization. Gaano po ba nakaka-apekto yung urbanization dito sa pag-increase ng temperature natin. So dito po sa report, meron po tayong isang study na include na kung saan calculate po or na-estimate po natin yung urbanization effect and urbanization contribution by like sa mga synoptic stations natin, in-identify natin siya kung urban or rural siya, and then tinignan po natin yung trends nung dalawang classification na yun to identify yung role ng urbanization, and dun po din papasok yung tinatawag natin na urban heat island intensity. Ito po yung increased warming dun po sa mga urbanized area as compared to its nearby rural regions. I think maybe later on baka may discuss pa po natin, but I think that would be one. Thank you po.
Thank you, John. Follow-up lang po siguro, no? Since we already talk about UHI and we already talk about our cities getting hotter, especially at night, how much do you think of that is due to how our cities are built versus the increase in warming in our climate?
Bali yung ginawa po natin diyan kasi, parang state of the art po kasi yung pag-identify nung urban ba 'tong area na 'to or rural ba 'to. So in-explore po natin 'yan. Ang isa po sa ginamit natin ay yung, night lights. Ibig kong sabihin nito, kapag gabi po, meron pong mga ilaw na nangyayari ay na binubuksan during nighttime. Halimbawa sa roads or sa mga buildings. Kapag city po siya, ibig sabihin, more likely mas marami po yung ilaw doon during nighttime. Pero hindi at some point may mga difference po siya sa cultural difference. Minsan hindi talaga gumagamit yung specific na area ng mga ilaw during night. But yung ginawa po natin ay sinundan po natin siya ng population density na data. And nag-agree po yung dalawa. And ang question po natin ay, sorry ma'am,
Is it actually connected also to how our cities are built? Kasi hindi naman sustainable din yung pag-urban planning ng ibang cities of our country.
Ay, yes po. I think hindi lang po ito focus sa temperature, no? Kasi kapag binabago po natin, kapag halimbawa nagiging urbanized yung area, ang ginagawa po natin, binabago natin yung land use land cover, ginagawa natin concrete yung mga roads na dati agricultural o mga soil na natural drainage din po natin na pwedeng i-consider. And also, yung urban heat island intensity, malaki po yun na idadagdag dyan sa intensity na yan kapag concrete na po or puro houses, buildings na po yun nandun sa urban area. Isa po dito ay kapag, halimbawa, ito po yung area na yun, kapag nasisikatan po siya ito po yung concept ng UHI eh. Halimbawa, ito po yung araw, tapos ito yung urban area. During daytime, naiinitan po siya ng araw. Pero yung pag-init po ng surface dahil sa heat capacity ng mga concrete, mas matagal po siyang uminit. At kapag umiinit na po siya, medyo may delay po siya. And then during nighttime naman po, so meron naman tayong tinatawag na terrestrial radiation. And then yung surface naman po ng Earth or yung urban area na yun, naman po, yung surface nun, yung magre-release ng terrestrial radiation or radiation galing po sa lupa. And then, imbis na ma-release po agad yun, ay nagta-transfer po muna siya sa mga concrete materials, halimbawa from one building to another, halimbawa dagdagan pa po natin yung mga air conditioner yung mga aircon sa mga buildings, so nag-accumulate po yung warm air during nighttime lalo. Kaya po mas mataas yung UHI during nighttime as compared during daytime. So yun po yung mga concept na nakapaloob dun sa urbanization effect and how it may contribute dun sa in relation to temperature and possibly may indirect effect din po siya sa rainfall.
Do we actually have data po on which cities are these? Kasi from our other Southeast Asian neighbors, when they're talking about UHI, ang pinaka-affected of the UHI pa nga is not the business districts kasi maraming trees na na sa business districts nila. Yung mga luxury areas, maraming mga puno at maraming mga parks. Unlike, I think, which is also something that we can see here in Metro Manila, maraming mga puno at saka maraming park sa Makati and BGC. But unlike other cities na hindi masyadong at masyadong dense, parang dun mas mainit yung at dun talaga felt yung UHI. Do we actually have data on that?
Totoo po yan. Meron pong study na ginawa using ASTER or remotely sensed data. And then sa Metro Manila po yung focus niya. And then they were actually identified yung mga hotspot and cold spot dun sa Metro Manila. And then nakita din po doon na yung mga cemetery, yung mga may area na kung saan may mga green grasses or mga trees, may mga cool spots. Ibig kong sabihin nito, malaki po yung role talaga ng mga green areas sa specifically sa Metro Manila. And in sa connection naman po sa ibang countries in Southeast Asia, meron po tayong ginawang study about sa UHI intensity sa Metro Manila, ang ginamit po natin na reference rural station ay Indang. And then yung station po natin sa Metro Manila ay yung port area at saka yung Science Garden dito sa Quezon City. And nakita po natin na yung UHI sa port area ay mas mataas. Unlike dun sa Quezon City na kung saan may mga green areas po dun sa paligid ng synoptic station natin dito sa Science Garden, Quezon City. And then, kinompare po natin siya dun sa UHI naman sa Singapore and sa Thailand. And yung nakita po natin ay, although maraming factors na nakaka-apekto, nakita po natin na pinakamataas yung UHI dito sa Metro Manila as compared dun sa Singapore and Thailand. Yes po.
Thank you. So before we move on to another sector of or topic in the report, Christine has a follow-up question. She said here na Tita Lu said kanina nga na changes are attributable to human-induced climate change. So can the authors elaborate on this? How does the data in the report show this besides the data related on urbanization? So, I'm seeing kanina nag-iisip si Father Jet. Baka po you have insights on this question. So, we're flashing the question on the screen as well. Basically focusing po on human-induced climate change, and maybe our other authors can chime in later on.
I guess just to on a global scale. Hello, Biana.
Yes
Can
po,
I?
we can hear you po. Yes po.
Sige, thank you. I think on the scale of the nation, we have not done those difference studies. What I mean is, usually to know the human signature, you try to model a world where there are no human beings, yung tinatawag na baseline. No, kung hindi nagbuga ng CO2, how much cooler will the world be? Now that has been done globally, but for the Philippines, it has not been done, and it doesn't need to be done really. We in the beginning when this issue cropped up, we that was an issue, that yung pagbabago ng klima ay dahil naman siguro sa araw. There are some natural factors that contribute to it. And so scientists were quite careful, very, very conservative in the beginning. But now we are more sure that there is a human imprint or signature. Meron na ngang bagong field ngayon, tawag attribution science, na ang hirap lang ngang gawin. No? Kasi kunyari may isang bagyo, ang tanong, to what extent has climate change supercharged this typhoon? Diba? Kung walang climate change, kung hindi umiinit yung mundo, gaano kahina yung bagyo siguro. Pero dahil may climate change, tinatanong, ano kaya nangyari? Anong dagdag? Anong idinagdag ng pagtaas ng temperatura? So again, briefly to say, on a local scale, we have not done that, and I don't think it is necessary. But on a global scale, it has been done, and there is evidence of a human imprint or human contribution to climate change. Sana nasagot ko yung tanong.
Thank you po. But I think before we zero down again on the Philippines, we have authors here who actually wrote the report on a global scale in Southeast Asia. Aside from Tita Lu, we have Faye and Francia who can maybe jump in talk about their insights on regional scale. Hi Faye, good morning.
Hello, good morning. Yes. So what is the question? Could I comment about what
Yes.
was new about the report?
Sure.
Okay,
Go
sige.
ahead.
So I think kasi I've had the privilege of also contributing to the first assessment report, and actually what's really good about this current one is how we have really increased the research locally. So before there were only I would think comparatively there are more research papers that have come out since 2016. and this has really contributed to increasing our knowledge and understanding about climate and climate change in the Philippines. So in the report, it's not just looking at trends, it's also important that we also look at our understanding of what are the systems affecting our temperatures, our rainfall. So kanina na-mention na rin yung about urbanization. There are also now research on monsoons and the different modes of variability, yung mga the drivers that also affect how rainfall is changing. Siguro dagdag ko na lang din yung ang isa pang magandang nahanap at yung na-report ay yung tungkol dun sa trends of the typhoons or the tropical cyclones that occur in the less active season. So there was this new study by Dr. Basconcillo and et al. On looking at the typhoons that occur during the latter part of the year na hindi siya masyadong active compared to during the active season of from June to September, October. So nung tiningnan nila yung mga tropical cyclones during December, January, February, around that time, kakaunti lang yun pero it has been increasing in the last years. And so yun, parang makita din natin yung kung ano yung nakasanayan na naiiba na recently. So it's something that it's interesting to also keep an eye on. And yun, nagkaroon din nung pagkakataon na makita yung hindi lang tinitingnan yung rainfall due to the strong typhoons but also to the weak tropical cyclones, yung tinatawag dun sa report ng mga non-tropical cyclone vortices. So ito, mga nagdadala rin sila ng ulan na kadalasan pa nga ito yung mas maraming ulan na dala. And magandang matuloy pa yung research natin para maintindihan natin kung paano ba sila nagbabago at saka paano sila magbabago in the future. So yun lang pa.
Siguro my follow-up question would be, since you use new methods to study climate change, how reliable are they and where do they fall short? So parang ano yung mga, dahil because right now we have, as you said, maraming mga nagamit din tayong mga ibang data. Where do you think are the blind spots pa?
The blind spots, I think mano pa rin kulang pa rin yung observation data, the ground observation data. Sa ngayon, we're very fortunate to have access to satellite-based data and what we call reanalysis data because they give us a big picture of the countries, and then also pwedeng longer time period yung tingnan. Pero iba pa rin din yung magkaroon ng high quality long-term ground-based observations because they also, what you see at the local level could be very different from what you could see, in a bigger area. So nasabi na nga rin po to ni Doc Rose, lalo na sa ulan, hindi po siya pare-pareho sa bawat lugar. So kung meron po tayong mas maraming stasyon na pwedeng gamitin, then mas makita po natin kung paano ba nagbabago yung mga specific characteristics ng rainfall. How does it change throughout the day? How does that differ in different parts of, let's say, even for a city, we could see that we will have different signatures if there are, if the parts of the city that are near the mountains, in the inland city, in the part, and also if it's near the coast. So, yan pa yung sa tingin ko.
We have a follow-up question here from our friends in the media. Hannah from Eco Business. This is a question for Faye. What specific data is there in the report and about how much of natural disasters is attributed to human activities in Southeast Asia?
Not in the report. Not in unfortunately, it's we did not include yet. We the report only focused on the changes, the climate changes that we've seen for Southeast Asia and how it's going to be in the future. But it has we did not include in the report yet that the question of how much natural disasters can be attributed. This also falls, I think, within the area of attribution. And as Father Jet mentioned, there is growing research into this, especially on event attribution. So I'm hoping that we can add more into this into the next cycle of the report. But
Thank
I also open it to others if you have anything to add. Thank you.
Yeah, so we're also joined by other authors of the report. I'd like to call on Sir Rodel Lasco, Dr. Lasco. We are talking about what has been uh, the new findings from this report, um, considering that we already know the trends in climate in the Philippines. But what are the glaring findings that you see na syempre po kasama natin ng mga friends natin sa media and ito yung pang-headlines, kumbaga.
Yeah, Vienna. I've been following since the beginning, of the conversation, and I'm not technically one of the authors. And again, kudos to our authors here. What I can say is the value of this kind of work, the Philippine Climate Change Assessment Report, is that we have our own scientists assessing our own science, and this is the big difference. The IPCC, they assess, well, we assess, we're part of the IPCC, we assess global data sets, and of course, coming up with very granular, very wide scale kind of conclusions. So the main headline news here is our own scientists assessing our own science now have better evidence of how climate is changing in the Philippines. As mentioned earlier by Father Jet, sea level rise, cities, this whole issue of attribution. Of course, we're still weak there, but that's part of the whole assessment process to identify where we are weak, where data is lacking, so future scientists can investigate, can work on these issues. And so for me, that's the biggest headline that our own scientists have validated, have strengthened the evidence that climate is changing in the 5 areas that you mentioned at the beginning of this conversation. So maybe I'll just stop there and let the author speak for the report. Diana, thanks for having me.
Thank you po. We also have Miss Julie and Miss Francia. Maybe we can ask them to talk about what do they think we've missed in the discussion or they want to provide more insights. I'd like to call on Miss Francia Avila first.
Hello.
Hello po.
Good morning.
Morning.
Yes, marami nang nasabi, but I'd like to add also that what's new in this report is that we already included assessment of the extremes, not just the changes in the mean climate, but the extremes, meaning yung mga gaano nagpabago yung malalakas na bagyo, malalakas na ulan, yung drought na part, no? So the extreme, both ends of the rainfall extremes, yung temperature, of course, and also there are, in terms of the modeling capacity, there are more models that were included in there are more studies which included more models compared to the previous report. And then in terms of gaps, paulit-ulit, no, we still need observations, but in terms of sa extremes kasi we need more granular data. Yung naalala ko pa when we started studying this climate, no, yung mga rainfall data is only monthly, but for this cycle we were already able to access daily data, so we can actually do the extremes, no, extremes assessment. But we also need the more frequent data sets na yung hourly and even minute na frequency ng data sets for lalo na for rainfall so that we can assess actually gaano ka laki yung pagbabago ng mga thunderstorms na nagko-cause ng flooding and all these extreme events. So yes, yeah, so those are the gaps data, and also of course sa modeling we need to make sure that our models are um, modeling properly. Yun yung mga ano. And I think also we mentioned that there is a need for the a whole holistic risk assessment for of the climate impacts, and also that means including the exposure and vulnerabilities of yeah of the climate of the social system. Yan. Kasi hindi lang naman yung ulan ang nagpapabaha, pero yung system around, yung community mismo, no, yung urban, yung drainage, etc., etc. And of course, the communication. We need to communicate this knowledge to our stakeholders and general public. Maraming salamat.
Thank you. And finally, we also have Miss Julie Dado. Maybe you can also talk about your insights and something new about the report before we move on to another question.
Yes, hello, good morning. So actually, it has been said already on much of the what's the new in this report. Pero siguro yung i-highlight ko na lang, not just what's new, but what is also in the sense yung na-highlight in the body of knowledge that we have right now. So we have lots, that's true, but there are still many things that we need to do, and this was what also highlighted in this report. So I guess yun nga, nabanggit na rin kanina yung tungkol dun sa studies on attribution, that we really need to I guess do more studies about it, so that we'll be able to do like event-based attribution. There have been studies already before, but I think mas kailangan pa rin yun now more than ever because of the nature of the changing extremes, as also highlighted in the IPCC AR6 report. And then siguro dagdagan ko na lang din yung tungkol dun sa modeling. Aside from in this report, there have been lots of more, kumbaga mas maraming models that were already included in the assessment for the Philippines. But these models are still very, I would say, still coarse for what we need for the Philippines, because Philippines is archipelago tayo, so sa maraming islands, maraming mga coastal areas, coastal communities that really need localized information, climate change information, and still that's a challenge for us as climate scientists to be able to provide that information, to provide that data, to have more robust local climate change information for those communities. Yun lang po. Oh, Vienna, I think you're muted.
Sorry about that. So we have a lot of questions in our comments. Keep them coming, but we're down to our last 15 seconds. Another question that we have is about the warming temperature in the Philippines. And Tita Rose and I have been talking about this before you all came in. Kasi hindi ko talaga specifically nilagay dun sa slides yung numbers of the increase. So maybe we can talk about this. Dr. Rosa Perez, is there more insights on the warming temperature in the Philippines? Is it better or worse compared to global average apart from rise in nighttime temperatures? Is there anything else we can note? Anything else affecting this apart from urbanization?
Um, Vienna, sa global kasi, they compare the yung increase sa against the pre-industrial. So, ibig sabihin, the record is very long. But for the Philippines, we only say compare with 1951 to say 2000 to the record is between 1951 to present. So medyo maiksi, ano. But so we can say na mas mababa talaga yung increase natin. And I think it reflects also with the greenhouse gas emissions natin. Hindi tayo ganun ka lakas ang buga, no? But um, with with this small increase in temperature, we know the impacts are so large, no? Like during the time of Haiyan, ang increase lang ng global is 0.86 but somehow sa atin, oh yeah, 0.86 degrees Celsius lang yung increase but the impact is large. Ganon yon, no? Hindi siya I think yung increase ng temperature natin hindi siya significant para masabi mo na we contributed to global warming, no? But the impacts are quite large. So, based on 1951 records up to present, ang sabi ni Pagasa is around 1 point something only, no, degrees Celsius ang increase. And they term this as anomaly, no, temperature anomaly. But in popular language, hindi siya, ang ibig sabihin lang nun is ano to, yung difference, no? Temperature difference. But the way they use in the reports are temperature anomalies. So, yun yung term na ginagamit. It's only about a little, mga between 1 point and 1.2, ganun. Yun yung sa global. And ang increase natin is way below that global temperature increase.
Siguro po maybe we can also talk about the part of the report that we have a future case scenario.
The projection, yung
Yes
ibig
po.
sabihin.
Yes po.
Kasi yung, I think you better ask the other authors na involved dito sa modeling, no? But as we can see from the projections, we're towards increasing temperature up to the end of this century. So, sumusunod tayo dun sa trend ng global increase, no? But the amount, the magnitude is smaller for the Philippines. So, perhaps we can hear from Pagasa where sila yung talagang nagmo-model niyan. And also MO, the Manila Observatory.
John is here with us.
Hello, good morning po. Thank you po, Doc Rosa. Salamat po sa inputs. Yes po, no? Actually, yung kaya po siya anomaly din yung ginagamit natin. Kasi kapag ginamit po natin yung absolute value, like yung temperature, tapos tinignan natin yung buong countrywide, minsan nag-i-equalize po siya, kaya hindi natin ma-represent ng maayos. Halimbawa po, yung sa Baguio, or yung sa mga stations natin sa mga na highly elevated, and then pag kinombine po natin siya dun sa Metro Manila, at some point, magiging mababa po yung countrywide temperature natin. And dun po sa study na nandun sa report natin, actually hindi po nakalagay dun, pero yung increase po ay about 1.01. And then kung titignan naman din po natin yung increase niya, kapag dating naman po sa Pag-asa from 1951 to 2020, ang increase naman po niya ay 0.77 degrees Celsius. So, magkaiba po yung yung increase na tinatawag natin na trend. Parang yung trend po kasi, yung binanggit po kanina, 1.01 degrees Celsius per decade. Ito po yung homogenized data. Pero yung increase naman po na from 1951, ano yung temperature no 1951, and ano yung difference niya noong 2020, ang difference naman po, ang change naman po nito ay about 0.77 degrees Celsius sa Pilipinas. And then yung T-mean ay about 1.27 and 0.41 naman po din sa T-max. And then sa projections naman po, paano po ba ginagawa yung projections? Parang may dalawang approach po, dynamical downscaling, and yung dynamical downscaling, yan po yung kailangan ng like supercomputers, like lalagay natin yung mga equations of the atmosphere dyan, lalagyan natin siya ng data, ganito yung temperature ngayon sa Philippines, sa Mindanao, Luzon, and ganito yung rainfall, etc. Then we will like we will program the like ask the computer, okay, with those information and then with this increase in greenhouse gases, we will ask the computer to calculate. We will parang papagawin natin sa computer na calculate nila what will be the temperature or rainfall by 2050, even up to 2100. So ang pinapakita naman po dun sa projection natin ay maaari daw pong mag-increase ng about 3 to 4 degrees Celsius yung temperature natin dito sa Pilipinas. And then meron din po yung iba't ibang scenarios, yung tinatawag naman po natin na SSP scenarios o shade socio-economic pathways. Yung difference naman po niya sa previous, yung previous po ay focus, yung RCP ay focus dun sa GHG emissions lang. And then yung bago po nating projections na nasa report ay bukod sa GHG emission ay na-incorporate na rin po yung socio-economic like conditions ng mga countries. So yung pinapakita po nun ay hindi mag-increase po siya ng about 3 to 4 degrees Celsius. Pero parang ang tanong po niyan, may magagawa po ba tayo or hindi mapipigilan pa po ba yan? Yung efforts po na ginagawa na actually itong pag-release ng report na ito ay also to inform us na ganito na yung nangyayari sa atin. Kaya ang magagawa po natin with those actions ay ma-delay po. Instead na halimbawa po yung increase ng about 2 degrees Celsius or let's say sabihin na natin worst case scenario, 4 degrees Celsius na increase, imbis na mangyayari siya by 2080, 2090, maaari po natin yung ma-delay pa, like baka 2120 na year pa siya mangyari or parang ganun po yung parang nakikita natin na kasi hindi na po natin maibabalik yung temperature like before. So ang magagawa po natin ay ma-delay yung pangyayari. Kaya po meron tayong Paris Agreement, yung Climate Change Act, and yung mga DRR na related dun sa mga somewhat actions na maaaring po pagbasihan itong report para ma-translate siya into adaptation options or actionable plans na parang ganun po.
Thank you, John. So, since we're also talking about emissions, I'd like to just go back to Tita Lu about what she said about on the relation of anthro to climate change and disaster. So, she wanted to talk also about yung tanong din kanina ni Christine about human-induced climate change. Go ahead po, Tita Lu. Ay, you're muted po.
Attribution.
Go ahead po.
We were talking about attribution, and then Father Jet said globally it is beyond debate na attributed sa increasing concentrations ng greenhouse gases yung temperature increases. And fortunately, once you have global warming, it results into a number of pathways of impacts. And because the Philippines is the birthing place for tropical cyclones and the northwestern Pacific, hindi pirming binabanggit kanya-ganyang mga disasters gawa ng anthropogenic climate change. So, para sa akin, gusto ko pa rin maumpisan natin at some point in time, in particular, yung attribution ng single extreme events. Nasa Pilipinas is usually yung mga tropical cyclones na low pressure area pa lang sa umpisa, biglang naging typhoon, super typhoon siya in such a very short time. So probably, siguro para matulungan deeper understanding on how we can do what we can do in order to avoid disastrous events from these natural hazards, specifically from extreme events. Siguro at some point in time, we can try to start doing this attribution. Not necessarily attributing increase in temperature, but attributing kung paano nagkakaroon ng pathways ng mga single extreme events like tropical cyclones. And isa pang gusto ko ring banggitin, sana magising yung ating mga policy makers. terming binabanggit natin, ang density ng network, observing network natin ay very dense, is not really at par. Kailangan nating i-address yan because there are parts of the country na talagang walang-wala tayong Pag-asa weather station. Alam naman natin na ang pirmi nating tinutulak, kinakailangan data source ay Pag-asa. So kulang ang density ng network observing weather stations natin. Kailangan nating madagdagan to because yung data gaps ay primarily because kulang nga ng observing stations. Thank you.
We're kind of like going over time, pero sana po okay pa rin tayong extend lang ng unti because having said, kung galing po dun sa sinabi ni Tita Lou, we have Mr. Marcelino Villafuerte who just joined us. He's from Pag-asa and one of our authors as well. So maybe you can share some insights on what has been said a while ago.
Yes, good morning po. And
Morning po.
apologies for joining late. Tama po yung na-mention ni Ma'am Lourdes, the big pertaining dun sa limited number of stations that we currently have in Pag-asa. But efforts are currently ongoing, pertaining to at least makover natin for each province in the Philippines ay meron tayong Pag-asa observing stations. But aside from that, meron din namang efforts po even ang non-government organizations and other local government units pertaining to increasing yung ating mga weather stations. For instance, I think even the Manila Observatory has a network of automated weather stations that are spread across the country, and also some local government units are putting up automatic weather stations in their localities. At least yung mga LGUs who can afford, And Pag-asa is assisting these efforts ng other organizations in order for us to have at least ma-understand natin yung climate and weather patterns for each areas and localities in our country. Yun po. Thank you.
Thank you so much po. Let's go back to the questions in our comments. So, Christine again asked how many scientists are in the report. 16 po, kung tama ako. To give us an idea on the context of the stories, how many scientists were included in the report. It was already mentioned that there were more studies for this report compared to the previous ones. How much more? This is a reflection of increased interest or participation within the local scientific community. Also, in terms of methodology, what are the new technology being used in the studies in the report? I'll let Father Jet and Dr. Rose talk about this as the leading authors.
Salamat, Vienna. On the exact number, I am sorry, I don't have the number. The number
I think 16 po tayo. 16.
16.
Yes
Okay.
po.
But what I want to highlight there is that I was there also in the 2016 report. Nung panahon na yun, kaunti lang talaga. Kaunti lang. And so I'm very happy to note the big increase in the number of papers and the scientists also who are focusing their energies on climate change. Kulang pa rin sa tingin ko. Another thing I'd like to mention is, alam niyo pagdating sa science, engineering, kaunting babae. Pero dito sa climate science, I'm happy to note na marami. There are many women entering this field, which is good. And I guess ano ba yung meron pa bang new technologies? Well, binabanggit na rin ng ilan na we're also looking at statistical methods, machine learning. Although of course that depends on good data. But a highlight really is that, for example, in the first report, we just had one model. Now we have, in this report, we have 12. So 1 versus 12, di ba? That increases our confidence. And that makes us even, well, I think, there can be more. There can be more because, for example, rainfall, that's really very difficult to understand. So the more models we have working on this, and in this particular area, I mean region of the world, I think that the better for us. So ano pa ba? And station data also, more station data have been incorporated. So basically, it's really just increase in confidence in what we're saying in this report. Thank you.
And I think another good question from another good point to highlight din po in this question is asking if this is a reflection of the increased interest or participation within the local scientific
Yeah.
community, which is um Dr. Rose po.
Sige, Vienna. Aside from dun sa sinabi ni Father Jet, I just like to emphasize to you that this assessment report, just like the IPCC, is not a research. Hindi yung mga yung itong mismong report hindi siya nag-research
Mhm.
but it is based on researches and studies done na nagawa na, no? So yung mga published report or some other things. Ngayon, yun nga yung every time na nagbibigay ako ng lecture or presentation, I always encourage people the audience particularly, to write, to document what they found. Kasi kapag nagkaroon ng assessment report, saan mo ba ito i-base? But on study. So I'm glad that between the first and the second, dumami na yung studies na ginamit dito sa assessment report. So yun yung state na gusto nating ipagpatuloy sa future, to have more of these young scientists particularly to write what they have they observe or the result of their studies, particularly sa mga peer-reviewed journals. Kasi sa IPCC man, kahit nag-scout ka sa Asia, napakakonti nung nagsusulat sa journal. Pero maraming mga report na, halimbawa, report ng Pag-asa sa sarili niya or within the scientific community lang, na nung una kasi hindi ito tinatanggap, no? Ang tawag namin dyan, gray literature kasi hindi peer-reviewed. But slowly, merong paraan para tignan yung integrity ng mga studies, and they make way to the assessment report. So yun lang yung gusto kong parang advocacy ko sa mga young scientists na to write more so that we can assess. When we do assessment, tinitingnan lang natin how many agree at the same point, no? At saka yung diversity nung kanilang discussion. So kung nagda-divert yun, ibig sabihin mababa yung confidence natin. But if they converge into the same ideas and the same conclusion,
Yes.
the confidence increases.
Yes.
Yun. Thank
Just
you.
finishing up.
Thank you so much po for that, very hopeful. And I think we can end our briefing on that. I'd like to ask everyone to turn on their cameras. Napakaganda po ng lineup natin. For all of the journalists we will here in the discussion, we will actually give you a preview of an advanced copy before we launch it on Monday on the 14th. And all of the authors are cited and the references are cited in the report. And ito po sa aming mga private chat, it's actually good to note that some of the authors are among the young scientists of our nation. And before we take a photo for everyone, because we really have a good lineup, dami po natin kailangan pag-usapan, pero unfortunately we have just an hour today, na-extend na nga po noon time. Maybe we can ask everyone for talk about the recommendations about the report. After this, ano ang gagawin natin? Ano yung parang wish list natin as a community? How can we move forward from this report? Maybe I'll start with the lead authors and then ikot po tayo, and then maraming salamat po again for taking time this morning, Father Jet and Dr. Rose.
Wish list.
Or how do we take the report from here? Ano pong mga recommendations? Saan natin siya gagamitin for further?
Well, I think it was also mentioned in that report, the the closer working of science with society, the co-production of knowledge. Alam nyo, ibang lengguwahe, ibang wika yung agham. And so we really need to interface with journalists, with grassroots, common folk, fisher folk, and others, farmers. I think that remains a challenge, and I hope we can find a common language so that this work, sana may talab. This work will matter in the decisions that have to be made. Actually, this decade is important. The decisions we make in this decade will... Hindi ako yun, ha? Hindi ko lang kung saan galing yung ingay na yun. Hindi ako yun. I just wanted to say that the decisions that we make in the Philippines and in the international community, the decisions we are about to make in this decade will matter. And so I just really hope that may talab yung ginagawa ng mga siyentista sa klima. Yung mga numerong ito, may kahulugan nito may iugat ito dun sa buhay ng ating mga kababayan. So anyway, yun lang. Salamat.
Tita Rose?
Vienna, with this assessment report, mapapansin nyo rin, no? The changing paradigm para sa scientists natin. Scientists are no longer confined in laboratories. Mas lumalabas na and nag-interact with other members of the community, which is a good sign. And I'm so glad nandito pa ako para makita yun, no? So, hindi na, yung mga researchers natin are no longer, well, some of them are still in the shelves, pero marami na rin yung na nagagamit sa ground para magkaroon ng policies at saka may apply ito sa ating mga pamumuhay, no? So, yun yung gusto kong makita. Itong mga assessment reports, walang saysay ito kung mananatili lang ito sa ating mga mga libraries. So, dapat dito magkaroon to ng saysay para sa ating mga tao, sa communities. Yan. Thank you.
Thank you, Tita Rose. And that's why we actually invited members of the media to help us in disseminating the information of the assessment. And we're really happy na nandito po kayo ngayon, and I can see the enthusiasm from all of the questions. We will be sending you an advanced copy of the report. Hopefully by today or by the end of the week, we will be publishing it for the public on Monday. But all of the things that we've talked about today is actually on record, and you can already report about it and help us in disseminating and for the further awareness of this report. Tulungan niyo po kami. And with that, I'd like to also call on Dr. Lasco to talk about maybe a final words before we end and we wrap up.
Well, again, Diana, and to all of you, a big thanks. And of course, to our authors led by Father Jet and Dr. Rosa. Salamat sa inyong dalawa and all the authors here. And I'm looking forward for our policymakers, decision makers, civil society, business sector to make use of this report. Good morning to all of you and thank you so much.
Thank you so much po. So before again we wrap up, we are doing fact sheets. So basically we're creating detailed fact sheets based on the report, and as part of this exclusive media preview, you'll be the first to access this fact sheets. Per report po, gagawa kami ng 5 fact sheets that you can just copy-paste in your report para di po tayo mahirapan na magbasa dahil nasa 94 pages po yung unang report. So the sheet will be packed with easy-to-understand data points to support your reporting. We are also crafting infographics because we know that visuals can make a big difference in your storytelling. So we're developing it to help to convey the report's findings more effectively. And we will be doing a pre-COP briefing on October 29, so I hope you'll be there to join us as well. Lahat po ng napag-usapan natin will be recorded. It's actually available on demand. So if you registered in this briefing, pwede nyo po siyang balik-balikan kung gusto nyo pong i-transcribe or kunin yung parts of the recording. And if you are not already, please be part of our WhatsApp group. This is the Philippine Climate Media Network. So you'll be updated for our next briefing and for the next drop of the reports. We will be sending the advance release to the media attendees, and I think because as a sign of thank you sa lahat ng mga umattend today, we'll be releasing the report to those who are here already para mabasa nyo na siya. And again, thank you for joining us. Maraming salamat po sa mga authors na kasama natin ngayong umaga. Marami pong kailangan pag-usapan, but unfortunately, we only have an hour. Nag-extend na nga po ng unti. And thank you again for your insights, and thank you for all of the journalists that joined us this morning. Please join us again next time on October 29 for a pre-COP briefing. Maraming salamat po. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Good
Thank
morning.
you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Bye.